was clear where Obama intended to take the country, given his background, being a disciple of Saul Alinsky, who was a disciple of Satan. He's the one who dedicated his first book to Satan, to Lucifer.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. The first printing of Rules for Radicals said it was dedicated to Lucifer, a community organizer so talented he got his own planet.
My mom has called me jaded the last couple of years in regards to politics in general. I've gotten to this place where I don't really believe any of it's real. My sister yesterday was asking me, why do you think that, like about the election? And I'm like, well, we've overthrown governments in other countries. We've put people in power. Why wouldn't that be going on here?
The formula in politics is there are bad people doing bad things to our country and you can stop them. 85% of our country is run by people you don't know and whose faces you wouldn't recognize. And if people really knew what was going on in DC, they'd be here with pitchforks and torches.
Hi guys, welcome back not only to my channel, but to my new, and we're gonna call it improved, podcast. Woohoo! I have to my left Mr. Todd Herman. I feel like we need like a handshake, high five, touching moment across the table. And I'm so excited. I believe this is my second episode at this point. And Todd is someone that pretty much from the moment that I met him, but especially once we got to start talking, that I knew I really wanted to interview and I really wanted to have on my podcast. And so I'm just excited to be able to chat with him. His life story is incredible. He's had some really interesting jobs that particularly play into questions that I have about culture and technology and politics. And so I have a couple of things on my mind, and he's also just lived a really incredible life. I'm trying to like not go off on 42 tangents, but I will also say this is our first episode with 3 cameras, which makes me feel extra like new and improved and very exciting. I'm over here a little bit holding my breath, hoping that this all works, but Todd is bearing with me. And welcome to the podcast, Mr. Todd Herman.
Thank you, Nikki.
Yeah.
Nice to be here.
Yeah, so I did an interview with Todd about a month or so ago, and I was really excited because Todd is someone, like I said, I met him, I talked to him, but especially as I've watched his program, because clips from his podcast are available on YouTube. I will link it down below, and then his full-length podcast is available on podcast. But as I listened to him, I really started to understand that, like, okay, we are like on the same page, and particularly we ended up having a conversation around our whole cancellation and all the craziness that's happened over the last few years. And the reason I was excited to talk to him was because, like I said, he gets it. He's really got his hand on the pulse of culture in a way that I don't know that all, I don't know if this is insulting, but I don't know that all boomers, are you a boomer technically?
Technically, I think I'm an Xer. I choose Gen X. It sounds more cool. I got to meet the guy who popularized the phrase, Douglas Copeland. So I just like to say it because it reminds me of that moment I got to meet Doug. Doug.
I don't know Douglas Copeland. Oh, no. I feel like I disappoint you every time I see you.
Whoa!
Like, sorry,
wait
Paul,
just a second. Are we supposed to talk about the fact that there's a relative of yours here?
Yeah? I know, but it's...
My brother, Dirk.
I know. He's tried his best.
Okay, Nikki.
Sorry, I'm
just go read the book Generation X by Douglas Copeland.
Okay.
And then you'll understand things from a secular perspective.
Okay. Is he a political guy?
No. No, he's just a brilliant writer, author, and now artist, but now I can get distracted. So I choose Gen X.
Okay, Gen Xer. Yeah. Well, I don't feel like everyone in your age bracket necessarily really gets what's going on, and I'll hear you make just comments on things that are happening, and I'm like, oh my God, at least from my perspective, right? Maybe it's confirmation bias, but from my perspective, I'm like, wow, he is spot on. And something that is really interesting about Todd, I said this in my interview with him, and I don't think I had told him this in real life prior to the interview, but when I was going to say growing up, I guess it's growing up, but back in my days in LA when I would be driving to movie sets, commercials, theme park work, live shows, whatever, I would always listen to talk radio, KFI AM 640, and I listened to Rush Limbaugh almost every single day. And Todd, one of his many notable jobs that he had, and noticeable, was he, what would be the phrase, like subbed in for Rush.
Filled in for Rush, yeah.
Pretty regularly. So it's kind of a full circle thing of like, I've definitely heard from you before. You were probably part of like helping shape just the way that I think about things and look at things, and I didn't even know. You didn't know we'd be living in North Idaho together. Right. So, okay, so where to begin? I think I want to start with how, and we may go all over the map. This may not be chronological, unless you feel like you really want to go chronological. I think my first question is, how did you get in to talk radio?
Okay, so where to begin this? I mean, it started with passion. And it started, I didn't know it was starting when I would sit that this is one of your goals as a live radio host, is to trap people in their cars.
Oh my gosh.
Driveway
totally.
Listening.
I have been driveway trapped many times.
So one of my goals as a performer has been to create those moments for people. And it started there. And how I actually got to do it was my guys kind enough to consider me a son, was a radio legend. And I got to drive around in the car with him and hear him critique radio. He worked with Dick Clark. He was helped run the Gavin Report. He was major league. So I'd sit in the car and I'd hear Gary say, "Guys, listen, stop. This is a good jock. Listen to what he does here. Listen to the transitions."
Wow.
And I got that, and I moved down to California at a really tough time in my life, really bad time in my life, to work in radio sales, subscript, like, to get into radio. And while I was down there, it happened that there's a sales event. We sold a remote broadcast at a car show, at a car lot, big, expensive car lot, by the way, in Dublin, California. And one of the hosts, Don Blue, was making fun of me because I was a sales guy. And so, hey, easy target. Plus, it's a remote. He needed material. But I started to talk back at him.
Okay.
And people started to laugh.
You were doing this in person, or it was
in
also
person?
on,
Right. I was standing next to him, like, "Hey, buddy, I'm not going to sit here while you
take your smack."
Right. So I got back to the station on Monday, and I got this call at my desk. I pick it up. "Hey, it's Don. Come up." Okay, so this is the time as morning show host, as demigod. So you've been summoned, and I go up, and he goes, "What are you doing, man? Why are you in sales?" You don't want to be in sales. You want to be in the air. You belong in the air, right? And Gary, my godfather, begged me, "Don't go on the air.
Oh, wow.
Don't do it." I did it, and I moved home to Spokane, and embarrassingly, I was the guy living in my mom's basement. Oh, that was so good. I like how you did that.
Well, you said it embarrassing.
Sort of like a Costanza moment. Yeah. "Hi, my name is Todd. I live in my mom's basement."
Wait,
I was single at the time. I was single.
Why did was your godfather, your uncle, why did he not want you to go on radio?
I don't know if I was ever really clear on that. He felt like a management path was more secure. You got to fire people rather than being fired. So I moved back to Spokane, lived in my mom's basement, gave myself 1 year to get a talk radio show, and then to get moved out of Spokane into a big market. So I met a friend who knew a friend who owned a small, tiny little radio station of 1,000 watts. And I talked this guy into letting me try to do talk radio. So Halloween night and the night after Halloween, I went in and did a show called Back Talk with Todd Herman. And
perfect.
The first caller was my liberal mother. The only time she ever listens to my program, because I needed plant callers, was my mom.
So she's like, "Sign me up. I'll be there."
No, it wasn't that. She goes, "Okay, I'll do it." And she's a very supportive, loving mother, but she's liberal, and so she was my first plant caller, and then some other friends, then some actual people called. And the first time I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's an actual person." And we did a deal where we did a revenue share. I kept 65% of advertising I sold. Tom kept 35% of his. And the way I launched the show was I went to a event where the former Speaker of the House, Tom Foley, was there. He was speaking. And God is good. God took my question. He had fully taken my question.
Okay.
So I raised my hand and I stood up and said, yes, sir, Mr. Speaker, thank you for taking a question. My name is Todd Herman, and on Monday I'm starting a program on KSBN 12:30 a.m. called Back Talk with Todd Herman, and I intend to use a good portion of that time to make sure that you are fired.
Oh my gosh.
And he said, well, son, a lot of bigger people than you have tried. I wish you luck. I said, name's not Son, it's Todd Herman, and you will memorize it.
Like, challenge accepted.
Right.
Wow, it's so perfect. Back Talk, the name for your show.
Well, there's a reason for that.
Speaking of going back really quickly, I just want to chime in when you made the basement comment. And I was like, oh, I was kind of riding off of your energy. In all seriousness, I want to say that I actually think that's amazing that your family was there for you. When I started my YouTube channel, I moved back in with my parents.
Okay.
And I actually think this is something that, like, yeah, it's not cool for people to have, like, no dream in life and just be like, I'm living with my parents, whatever.
Yeah.
But I actually think that culture has come to a place where they're like, get out, do it on your own. And it kind of falls in the vein of like separating family, I think, in some ways. And I think family can be there for each other to help each other launch and build life together. And so I just wanted to clarify that I wasn't like, that's pathetic. I just kind of riding off your energy.
Yeah, and it felt that way at the time because as a young man, who has been on his own, and fought to be on his own. I mean, I'm a guy who sold blood for money when I was trying to play in rock bands.
My mom's done that too.
Right.
That's
That's a fun time. And if you ever in one of the places where the people are new, and you're writing songs, you're trying to be a full-time musician, and so you work where you can. And this guy was checking my blood, and there's this big air bubble. And I said, I heard that's bad if that makes it to your heart. No, it's fine. And then he's like,
gosh.
And it's like a golf ball.
Oh.
So, no, but if that's coming up here, no, that's fine. And he's,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, it'll metabolize. I'm like, but it's not.
My skin is crawling.
So, no, that was not a thing you bragged about when you moved home. But I've been in settings like that where there are 3 generations of people living in a home. And that is a remarkable thing to see an 8-year-old who has the experience of seeing mom and dad in their 30s or their 40s with the challenges of 30s and 40s.
Yes.
But also what I enjoyed was seeing in the room after, and what happened was the parents had a discussion that kind of was argumentative. And they left the room to go work it out. And grandma talked to the grandkids.
Yep. I mean, I think you know this, that's basically the blessing that we have living next door to my parents. And Dan and I have talked about this a lot without going too far off into the weeds, that it's like, I think that there is also, I think it's Abigail Schreier who's talked about this, that she feels that there's a lot of factors here, right? Some of the anxiety that's risen in the culture comes with the fact that families are not sticking together so much. So it's like when the 30, 40-year-old parents are freaking out, there's no one older to be like, you're fine, we've been there, you'll get through this. Like, let's go, hold my hand. And for kids to be able to see that, like I look at my son all the time and I think, man, what a beautiful, stable feeling you must have to not, like, we're not the only matriarch and patriarch, like you've got them next door as well. So didn't mean to sidetrack, but that's really cool that you had your family's house to land in while you were launching into this. I mean, you didn't know it was going to be this epic career, although maybe you did with the comments you were shouting at the Speaker of the House. All right, so we are taking a break for our very first sponsor of today's podcast episode, and that is Honeymark. To those of you that haven't heard me talk about Honeymark yet, get ready because I am low-key obsessed. Honeymark makes the absolute best modest swimwear, and the reason that I say it is the absolute best is because I have been wearing their swimwear now for 3 years, and it is incredible. So not only is it so cute, yes, there is a lot of cute, modest swimwear out there, though I think Honeymark's is like some of the cutest. Not only is it so cute, but it also is so high quality. So I have bought other modest swimwear in the past, and I've been honestly pretty disappointed, mostly because of the fabric. I have said this before, but Honeymark's fabric is like magic. It dries so fast. So you would think like with more fabric on swimwear that when you get out of the water, it would just be like extra sopping wet and cold and like sagging low. And you would be correct in thinking that when it comes to other modest swimwear that I have tried. But with Honeymark, it is incredible because it drip dries so fast. For some reason, the fabric like doesn't stretch. I have the same Honeymark swimwear that I got a few years ago, and I will still wear it because even after wearing it, I don't even know, man, like over 100 times, the suit actually still fits the same. So it hasn't stretched out over time with water. And that is exactly what the previous Modest swimwear I bought did. I was only able to wear it a few times, and the fabric actually completely stretched out from the weight of the water to where it wasn't even wearable anymore. So I'm such a huge fan of Honeymark. I can't recommend them enough. They're great for chasing after your kids. The top is super supportive. You can wear them to church camp. Amazing. I have a discount code Nikki10 for 10% off of your order. So if you want to check them out, I will link them down below, and thank you in advance if you shop with my link. Back to the interview.
Yeah, that was, we went through, in launching the show, did I know it was going to be this big? I had a sense that this is what I was designed to do. And then I put this timeline on myself of 1 year, and if it doesn't work, you go do something else. And it was 1 year and 3 months, and I was trying to figure out what to do, because the timeline was passed, and then I get this phone call, and this was the life-changing phone call. As I'm at home at Mom's house. And we had these phones, and they would be stuck to the wall.
Oh,
and
yes,
they had a cord,
I've seen
right?
them.
And so the phone rang, and I picked it up, and hello, is this Todd Herman?
I know the voice.
Yes, this is Todd. This is Brian Jennings.
Oh, I didn't
And I
know
think
that.
your show is hot.
Oh.
Like, wow, Mr. Jennings. I want to bring you down to Salt Lake City. Try out for the morning show. Give you a week.
Okay.
We'll pay you. So Brian Jennings is the guy, and I'm still friends with Brian, who invented what was called the super talk radio format. All conservative talk.
Okay.
And he started that at KBI in Seattle, which is now runs I have 2 syndicated shows. One of them is on the Radio America Network, and that's on our flagship, I guess, is Seattle, 570 KBI. And yeah, I went down, he took me down to Salt Lake City, and that's where the radio career began in earnest, and did that for about 2 years, and then they changed formats, and that's where we started the internet radio company and learned all about tech.
When you say in earnest, you mean like that's when it became like legit?
Yeah, that's when people were
full-time,
like, I
people
didn't
were
have
paying
to sell.
attention.
No,
Gotcha.
people. Oh gosh, we had plenty of attention at the little station.
Oh, okay.
But
you were selling for yourself, and then when you got down there, you had like an ad sales team.
Yep.
Like, gotcha.
I didn't have to sell any longer. It wasn't rev share. I had a base salary plus talent fees.
Awesome.
And I decided to idiotically become super libertarian, and part of it was
That's what everybody says.
a rebellious
We won't go
network.
into that. Okay.
A rebellious time in my life, because I wanted to be hip, and it worked, but I'm pretty embarrassed about some of the things I did. But oh, Nikki, we had plenty of attention in Spokane.
Wow. Well, yeah, so that's why you got the call from Brian.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you went down there. You said at that point you started getting involved in tech. So not only are my timelines confused, but obviously I'm like bringing us all over the place. So at what point, and maybe I'm jumping too far back or too far ahead, or maybe that's what you're insinuating, did you start getting involved with Microsoft?
So when the format to the radio station in Salt Lake changed, some of my friends stayed. I left. Well, no, I was fired because they needed me to get out.
In Salt Lake? Why were you fired?
Because they were changing formats.
So they were just not doing the super political...
No, they were getting ready to turn it into a Disney station.
Well, that's different.
So, and I can't be Disney.
Sorry, Todd. That's not your fault.
That's why my godfather Gary said, don't go into on air.
There you go. You just flash back to him.
So, yeah, they actually sent my dear friend over to inform me of that, Rick. But we started this internet radio company together. And for a while, we were messing around with, it's our channel, it was called Extreme Talk. And then thinking about this isn't going to scale. We're not going to make any money doing this. So we conceived of something that we ended up naming The Dial. It started as Earth Broadcasting Corporation, later changed it to The Dial. And it was truly an internet radio network where we built technology where we could service thousands of websites.
Okay.
With the same music and personality stuff, but we changed it to The Dial, so you could hear, you're listening to salon.com on The Dial or AOL.com on The Dial.
Okay.
And then we put ad insertion technology in it, and we put ad tracking technology in it. And we actually had a bunch of stuff we patented. And we went and created all these contracts with ISPs. Back in the day, there used to be a bunch of ISPs internet service providers,
Okay.
which were like our radio stations. And lo and behold, we got together some people who knew how to talk to venture capitalists, and we put together a hard-to-ignore business plan that had a titanium cover. My former brother-in-law, that was his idea, brilliant guy, Isaac.
You mean like literally like a titanium?
Literally titanium.
That's
and the first page of it said, if we put this much effort into the cover, think about what we built in the business. And I had so many venture capitalists call me and say, you know what? I got to tell you, that plan sat on my desk for about 2 weeks because it seemed like a dare. But I gave in. I gave in. It's interesting. We want to bring you down. So I learned how to speak Silicon Valley ease, how to pretend to go like, well, you know, actually sort of the ecosystem we're looking at, you know, I mean.
Yeah. You learned all the buzzwords.
Sort of, and buzz habituations and affectations. And I'm not saying that we're, you know, top tier, but we're definitely upper right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Right. Right. So that was, we did that. Got funding. We moved out. We had great angel investors. Isaac's uncle and father were our angel investors.
Is Isaac the guy you were doing this with?
Yeah, he was my brother-in-law, former brother-in-law. And I got to then hire Gary's son.
Okay.
And eventually Gary's other son to run sales and programming. We moved up to Seattle. And the dial did really well, and we ended up selling it for not as much money as I'd like because some of our investors said no to a $60 million offer from Microsoft. Praise God I didn't get that, because if I had made that much money, I'd never have come to the Lord.
Interesting.
I would have been a bad human. But that
incredible.
Introduced me to a guy who's become a dear friend, Brad. I worked with at Microsoft. He worked with us on that account. And ultimately, I went and they were looking to do a video play, and they had a bad idea for it. And so we gave them Microsoft. They wanted to do an online video thing. Okay. So
you mean like just move into video?
Like doing online,
like a play on video.
Right. Yeah, not a play on video. Yeah. Hi, I'm Steve Ballmer. They did. Like, they actually did some pretty funny stuff, Steve and Bill. But
so they're looking to move to video.
They wanted a online video plan, and they hired me as a consultant to put that together. And then I got to be an FTE, a full-time employee, a blue badge. Oh. And they even let me choose my own title. So. And
then your father-in-law or uncle was probably happy.
Gary, think of him as a godfather. Okay. Yeah, he was very happy about that, and that was, gosh, what an incredible time. And working at the company was a great financial gift, great intellectual gift. And so, of course, I left. Instead of sticking around and just taking life easy and raising a family, I went and did other things.
How long were you there?
About 6 years.
6 years. And what caused you to leave? Were you doing your radio show the whole time?
No.
You had
stopped doing radio when we did the Internet Radio Network. Okay. I didn't even do on-air stuff there because I was CEO.
Gotcha. So you were just running the whole radio program.
Well, with a board of directors and a very smart team of people. Thank God we had people who were smarter than me running it, but I was the CEO.
Okay. Because you had the experience.
The vision. I mean, it was my vision.
Yeah.
And so, when I went to Microsoft, no radio. When we started our next startup, SpinSpotter, no radio.
SpinSpotter.
Yeah, we were so early. We didn't have social media. We would have done a lot better. But then I went to the Republican National Committee and got to be chief digital strategist there, and agreed to do that for 1 term.
Which is a year?
Or 2.
It's 2 years.
So I ended up doing it I was there about.
So that's what took you away from Microsoft, was going to RNC?
Well, a startup and then RNC. So what took me away was ego.
Okay.
What took me away was ego.
Okay.
I should have stayed, and I should have raised a family. I should have put down roots.
You still think that in retrospect?
Oh, absolutely. I don't regret it, because regret is a loser game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I could have earned enough money to go buy radio stations, right? And then, but I would have been a bad person. Because I never, ever would have had, God had given me so many gifts. Nikki, I'm a community college dropout. I shouldn't have been sitting there managing people at Microsoft. Under no circumstances should Bill Gates ever have read a think paper I wrote, and yet he did. I never should have been privileged to watch Bill and Jay Leno launch a product that I really was central to at a tech event on stage. That never should have happened. I never should have had the time in Hollywood I had, and in all of these things, you know, I never did, is I never fell to my face and said, thank you, Lord. I used some money to put on a roof at our church.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Well, and then I told my little girl, see that roof on the church? Yeah, Dad funded that. This is a great thing from the screw tape letters of people going to church for the first time. And the demon is concerned he's losing them. They're going to church. And so the senior demon screw tape says, they must be pretty proud of themselves. And so God tried all the gifts. And then at one point God had to say, I got an idea. Why don't I just let you do your thing? You know, you can't even swim yet, but you can't even back float. Why don't you swim across the ocean? And then it took me to that point where I was drowning, and Jesus put his hand down and said, hey, need help?
When you had more training to go through, more that he needed to build you up for.
Or let me build myself down.
Yeah. But I mean,
to be emptied.
I think we kind of mean the same thing, just in different ways. He had to grow you. He had to change you, mold you. Wow. Okay, so I want a 10-second backup. I don't want to negate you, but I do want to chime in on the college thing. This is kind of like a little side tangent, like I threw in earlier. Well, it's amazing that you got to do all of that, like you said, while being like a community college dropout. This is a conversation, though, I was having with a family member the other day, because this family member does not have a college degree. She has a high school diploma, but she's now in a point where she's managing people. She's got like 6 people under her that she's managing, but all of them have college degrees. Some of them have masters. And we were just kind of talking about, like, isn't that amazing that you can get to a position where it really doesn't, I don't know, I'm hesitant to say, I don't say that college is a scam, because I do think that some people need it. I think that there's a lot that can be learned from it depending on what field you're going into. But I think for a chunk of people, it can be a scam. I just saw a YouTube video the other day where the guy was essentially talking, he's like, we're not looking at your degrees. Like, as an employer, I'm looking at the people that we're hiring, not the degrees that they have. And the comments was full of people that were so mad to hear that, like, that's not true, blah, blah, blah. I'm thinking, like, you're telling him it's not true, but he's an employer telling you his experience. So clearly this has to be true amongst a sector of the hiring population. And hearing your story is, I mean, there it is.
Well, no, I appreciate you winding that back a little bit, because if you go back to radio days in Salt Lake City and, in fact, Spokane, one of my favorite go-to slow news day topics on college-driven talk radio was, and forgive the language, college is crap.
Yeah, I mean.
And I would have a lot of really interesting discussions with people about that. And college can be great, but the reason I said I shouldn't have been there is because in the era of a resume bot, typically, I wouldn't have been.
Totally.
And in fact, one of the first interview questions I got was from the HR lady, and that's like, if you don't make it out of that interview, you're done. And then you go through your 7 employees, then you have your as app as appropriate. Then you never know what that one's going to be, who that will be. That's the hiring. That's a person whose head has been. I mean, that's that position they offer. So the lady in HR said, "Well, you know what? One of my concerns is you don't have a college degree, and so." I mean, do you know how to build spreadsheets? And can you populate a spreadsheet with macros?
I can't possibly learn how to do that.
No. And
no way.
I said to her, not only can I not do that, I'm proud of the fact that I can.
Oh,
because you're not hiring me to create spreadsheets. You know, if there is no college degree for what I know how streaming media works. I helped invent some of the most important ad tracking and ad insertion technologies in it. And in doing that, I've been afforded the opportunity to convince people to invest traditional media dollars into this. And I've run teams of people who build these things. There is no college degree for what I do. And she accepted that as a good answer. Now, societally, one of the big things that we could do to really, really improve society, this is a dare to any of the major universities that take tax dollars, they should have to open every class to monitoring for anybody. Oof. It can all be online. You should be allowed to take a test online. I mean, we don't need to check ID. That's racism.
There you go.
Right? So you can take the tests online. You can write a thesis. You should be able to do everything remotely. Because if you take a look at the math of, say, Harvard or Yale, they could provide cost-free college for everybody and write it just on their endowments, just on the float on their endowments. Huh. And if you were to do that, you create this sense of competition because a basic college degree would be cost-free. Now, you want the extra college degree, you want the interactive experience. Like, for instance, if you're going to be a surgeon, you probably should cut on a cadaver at one point.
Yeah, right.
So this is some hands-on things. But if we did that, we'd create this competition for a basic college degree. And you'd have to create better courses for people, et cetera. I think that would be this huge shift in society. And I say that with a little bit of a sense of, it's not bitterness, but when I was trying to figure out how to go get a college degree, because I wanted to get one. And so I bought this book that contends to show, it's called, oh gosh, I'm trying to remember what it was, but it gives you a test to figure out where you're at in knowledge in comparison to, say, a Princeton grad or a Stanford grad. And I learned enough to have achieved, an undergraduate degree at Princeton or Stanford. Okay. And I took this to some colleges, and they, you can CLEP in.
What's CLEP in?
So you get credit. You get prior learning credits. Okay. This is called PLE, prior learning from experience.
Oh, okay.
So they look at your experience, and I did this. Here's my resume. I've done these things. I've been at the committee. I've done Microsoft. I've started companies. I've done radio. Okay, cool background. Then they give you a test, which is a lot like this book. You take the test, you write some papers. I'll never forget this phone call, and thank God I got rejected because it was Evergreen State College, which is a bad house. And so I do this, I pay the money, I think it's like $1,500. We really want you to come to school here, and we're willing to give you credit for 4 years of college, almost. You just basically have to come for 1 year, so basically 3 years of college. Oh my gosh, oh, this is amazing. Okay. So all I have to do is go 1 year and I get my undergrad. Yes. Oh, wow, okay, I want in. How much does this cost? Well, we've calculated your credits earned. She wanted me to pay them.
So they're like salesmen, like trying to.
She wanted me to pay them for the things I'd done.
Oh my gosh. What? For like back pay?
Yeah. So wait. I achieved this knowledge on my own. Yeah. But I have to, not full price, at 80% of what it would have cost you here. Yeah. Unbelievable swindle.
Yes.
Right?
Scamming to give you the piece of paper.
Right.
To give their approval.
And I had the 4 years.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
Well, God gave me all sorts of time to go learn, but yeah, the real learning came later.
I'm back for our next sponsor of the video, and that is Equip. I love Equip. So I have been trying to find a good protein powder for years now, and I'm sure there are lots of great protein powders out there, but for me personally, all of the protein powders that I have tried within recent years have actually hurt my stomach. I'll either like get bloated or a weird gurgly feeling or like sharp pains in my stomach, and the Equip protein powder is amazing for me because I get none of that. I get zero bloating, I get zero like gross protein powder feeling vibes from drinking it. It's so amazing. It's so tasty. I actually love mixing their peanut butter flavor with their chocolate flavor because that way I can do like a little bit extra. I can almost do 2 scoops in a shake with like some raw milk and a little bit of ice. It's absolutely incredible, and it's been helping me meet my protein goals. The other amazing thing about Equip, and this is the reason why I think my body likes Equip so much, is because the ingredients are very simple. So the protein source is actually just dehydrated beef. So for me, I mentioned not only getting stomach pains, but the other thing that would happen is I would actually break out. So like whey protein for me makes me break out like crazy. I don't know why. It just does. And this stuff not only feels amazing, I don't get any breakouts from it. Super simple ingredients. It is sweetened with stevia, so if you're not a stevia fan, know that. But they actually have an unflavored version that does not have stevia in it. So I have a friend that loves the unflavored version, and she'll just put like fruit, the unflavored protein powder, maple syrup, or honey in there, and that is delicious as well. So I highly, highly, highly recommend Equip. If you use my code NikkiP, you will get 15% off of your order, and I am pretty sure you will love it as much as I do. I hope you do. You have to let me know if you check them out, and thank you in advance if you use my link. Back to the interview.
Yeah, the institution thing, I mean, that's a whole other thing. I, once again, would try not to get off into the weeds. I mean, we were talking earlier about like just the NIC stuff, and I have a lot of opinions around, you know, just institutions in general, but that's very fascinating. That's crazy though. 80% of what you got. Okay.
I had to ask, so what was the ego? What specifically made you punch out at Microsoft? Like, his ego, was there a specific incident?
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun. My dad, and just in case you couldn't hear him, my dad asked off camera if there was a specific incident that made Todd pop out of Microsoft, and he said, yeah.
Yeah.
And it looks like he's willing to share.
Well, it was a buildup. I wrote a paper for Microsoft entitled "Don't Be Food," and because I was down in Hollywood, and their solution to everything was, well, how much will it cost? Just pay them. And I saw what Facebook was doing, and I'd heard chatter. I got a special dispensation that I could spend time on Facebook as my job.
Cool.
Because they wanted me to figure out what's the business model going to be here. And so I could spend 8 hours a day getting these different Facebook profiles. And by the way, that reintroduced me to a friend who was dying, and I died from Lou Gehrig's disease. Praise God for Facebook, I guess.
Wow.
But I came and said, okay, look, what it looks like is that they're going to build these apps. And so this is just a platform play. Like, I don't think they really care about connecting people. You know, it's a data hoover.
Harvesting.
It's a data hoover. It's just sucking up all this data. It looks like they're going to invite people to build third-party apps. And we should do this. Like, right now we're food. And what happened was we had these, you know, every company has meeting rooms. But these people were over time in a meeting room. And at one point, I think the societal rule was at 15 minutes you open the door and say, get out. You lurk, and you look in the windows for 5 minutes, and then at like 11 minutes, you're really looking in the window. And then at 15, you open, hey guys, we've got the room. And so they moved out.
You'd be like, no one could claim it for longer than 15.
No, you weren't supposed to, I mean, you were supposed to leave on the hour, but they were camping out.
Okay.
And so I said, hey, by the way, what are you working on? It looks interesting. And they said, oh, we're doing a gas price calculator. I said, you're building a gas price calculator? Yeah, we're designing it for MSN. You know there's a lot of those, right? Yeah, but this is going to be ours, so it'll be better. Oh, okay. And that was the impetus for this idea of why. There were 15 people, talented, brilliant people in that room, building a gas price calculator. Why? We have a platform, MSN at the time was a top 3 website.
Okay. We
have this massive platform. Why don't we have them build gas price calculators for us? Why are we treating this like something we have to build when we don't do this with Windows? We don't build all the apps. We don't build all the software. That's the whole magic of Windows. We've got such a big platform. Everyone wants their software there. Why are we treating MSN differently? Everyone wants on MSN.
Interesting.
Like, I go to Hollywood, and everybody wants to deal with us. Everybody wants to deal with us. So I wrote this paper, Don't Be Food. Let's stop being food. Tell people, hey, you want to put your videos on MSN? Go ahead. Fantastic. Put them up. You want to put your movie trailers up? Fine. You bring them on. You want special treatment from us? Now we're talking about a business deal. You want your apps here? Great. They go through a security review process. We make sure that they're not super buggy, and they go up. So we do that. And I wrote this paper. What happened was one of my bosses stole the paper and presented it as his. And I got called into the meeting as he was presenting it. He 911 emailed me, like prize 0, response required. Come into this meeting room.
Whoa.
So he calls me in this meeting room. I go upstairs and I look, and he had stripped my paper, but it was my work. And I'm sitting there in the conference room, and so my boss says, Todd is one of our chief strategists here. He was pretty fundamental to a lot of his thinking. Hey, Todd, can you explain this piece? And I actually said, wow, actually, I'm unfamiliar with that.
Stop it.
And he goes, no, I mean, you Todd's being humble here. he had a lot to do with this. I mean, can you explain this piece legally? Yeah, you know what, I'm blanking. I don't really recognize that.
Wow.
Now, guessing, I would probably say it's less legal than it is RIAA, and it would probably be this deal we've done with them that's very close to being closed. That's under a project we have called Salt Mine, and I don't know who's read in on that here, but I would guess it would probably be related to that. By the way, in the slide prior, you were talking about TRPs. That's not the right phrase. It's actually a GRP, but I'm guessing.
I mean, I hope you know that like 25% of the like RIAA, TRP, I don't know if that matters, but all that.
That was the point.
Okay.
So my boss is freaked.
Yeah.
So meeting closes, and I went to go get coffee. I'm standing in a little kitchenette, and a senior vice president walks over to me and goes, "Come here." And I walk over, he goes, "Everybody saw what you just did." And I said, and he goes, "Well done."
Oh my gosh.
What do you mean? He goes, "Everybody knew that was you."
Wow.
How? He goes, "Todd, who at Microsoft calls a paper don't be food?" He forgot to take that part out.
Oh, that's so funny.
So I said, "Okay, can you do something about this?" He goes, "Yeah, I've already done it." And so he'd written to him and said, "Don't do that to your employees."
Wow.
And so my boss agreed to pay Deloitte and Touche to come and look at the plan.
What is Deloitte and Touche?
Deloitte and Touche, big
name of the
strategy
company.
accounting
Oh,
firm,
okay.
software, big corporate suit wearing, shiny shoed people with college degrees, masters, MBAs. And his response to this is, "We'll pay them $1.5 million. And my thing was, or we could take 5% of MSN and try it for free."
Okay.
So, no, we're going to pay Deloitte and Touche. And their response after 6 months of work was, this is worthy of looking into.
Wow.
Oh my, with $1.5 million, you've reached, we could have launched it. We could have done a fast fail. That was one thing. I'm sounding bitter. The other was this. I was gifted to work with the most gifted minds I've ever worked, because they came out of Microsoft Labs.
Okay.
And they had invented this thing for these things called cell phones. And they had looked at the cell phones, and Nikki, it might surprise you to know this, but back in the day, people would take a cell phone and they would pull this thing out called a stylus.
Yeah.
And they would prod and poke and write like this in made up script. And so these designers, brilliant people, John Sangiovanni is the most well-known of them. John, with his friends and computer scientists, they built this crazy thing called a zooming user interface, thumb-driven interface, where you would take a phone out with your thumb, you'd steer around, like moving the screens like this and then zooming in. And they'd heard about me because I did business models for people. They said, "Hey, could you come and look at this?" And so I had this meeting. I said, "Oh my gosh, you guys, this is incredible. Let me ask you a question. That tile, could I own that particular tile?" "Sure." "Could we call that an app?" "Yeah." Okay, and so now I'm thinking again, okay, here's the platform. MSN won't do it. Windows Mobile will. We'll go do it on mobile. And they got to take that stuff down to the Silicon Valley testing lab. They had built this phone, and people tested it, and it was the highest ranked product in history. Because people could use it joyfully, guided, unguided usage. Your dad, he knows what I'm talking about, like you're nodding. Joy of use, ability to teach others to use.
Wow.
Thing was like a 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10.
Wow.
So we get the reports back on the test, like, okay, this thing is rock star. And my business model then was, let's have free tiles or for sale tiles or ad-supported tiles. Let's get out to companies. And what we called them was lifestyle-centric apps, or we shortened it to life-centric apps.
Okay.
So before I understood the great and enormous evil of big pharma, oh wait, this is on YouTube, the questionable activities of pharma,
Exactly.
I knew a bunch of pharma people. I knew a bunch of marketers from BMW, and I knew the creative directors of agencies. And
Which, am I allowed to ask you at this point? I don't know. Okay, something that I really admire about Todd is that he used to be like 150 pounds larger?
Yes, I was about 400 pounds.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
he's had such a physical transformation.
Yeah.
It's one of the things I told him when we sat down a few months ago and talked. I just have so much admiration for people who take such a dramatic lifestyle turn physically.
Yeah.
So I guess hand in hand with that, were you in that state physically at that time as well?
Yeah, I had the ponytail, because I was fat, and fat guys like ponytails.
I didn't know that was a thing, but okay.
It was a thing. Anyway, we brought them to Seattle.
Okay.
And I remember this conversation with a Johnson & Johnson senior C-level marketer.
Okay.
I said, if I could build an app on this phone that would monitor people's eating habits, say a fitness app or blood sugar app, if I could tell you that someone was in a state of pre-diabetic state, how much would they be worth to you? Oof. And we were looking at things as a cost per 1,000 impression.
Wow.
And he said $1,500 cost per 1,000. And right now, at that point, the going rate for media cost per 1,000 was $35.
Yeah, I mean.
So we took this plan and the business model and the willingness of these big companies to invest and the video of people using the phone joyfully.
Okay.
And we sat down with one of the senior executives over Windows Media. And he said, this is incredible, guys. Congratulations. I mean, the testing is amazing. I'm really intrigued by the business model. But here's the deal. We will not be moving away from the start button metaphor. We're not going to change that because this defines Microsoft, always has, and because I'm one of the chief inventors of the start button.
Oof.
And so in the meeting I said, are you open to a question about that? And he said, sure. I said, it is your contention that people are going to choose to continue to pull a phone out of their pocket and take a stylus and stab away at it on a corporate phone that we build and control versus something that is an open technology ecosystem. And he goes, they will, because that's all we're going to provide. Oh,
wow, isn't that
I forgot to tell you something.
Me?
Yeah, that was before the iPhone.
Right.
Well, that's what I was assuming. It's fascinating.
It was before the iPhone.
It's amazing to me that just his thought process, like, oh, that's all we're going to provide. Like, oh, you don't think anyone else is going to come up and fill that gap?
Right.
It's fascinating.
So you think John Sangiovanni and his brilliant inventors are the only ones that are thinking this way? All I did was look at this and go, here's a business model. I did nothing.
Wow.
They did it all. And so those two things, I went back and I'm like, I'm wasting my life here. Now, I should have just said, suck it up, take their money, but I'm wasting some creativity God gave me.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sit here and continue to present these things that's not going to get done.
The next sponsor for the video is the Tuttle Twins. If you don't know the Tuttle Twins, I'm about to maybe blow your mind. So the way that I know the Tuttle Twins, even though like the whole brand is called the Tuttle Twins, I'm kind of obsessed with their book series. It's an adventure series featuring these twins, and a lot of parents who homeschool use these books. Like, that's how I first heard about them, because all of the cool homeschool moms were like, the Tuttle Twins, the Tuttle Twins, the Tuttle Twins. And then I looked into them and I fell in love. I actually realized once I looked into their books, I was like, wait, I've been following this account, like the Tuttle Twins account, on Instagram for like 4 years, and I never registered that it was like the same group that makes these books that all of my homeschool moms were obsessed with. And what's really cool about the Tuttle Twins is they do a great job breaking down large, complex topics that even I know, like, oh, I agree with this, I was gonna say talking point topic, but I don't quite know how to answer in a way like my children's questions that would make sense to them, or Logan's questions, or other people's questions for that matter. And that's what Tuttle Twins does so well. They break down large concepts like the free market, different concepts that exist around like the idea of libertarianism, the golden rule, like principles for how to live a successful life and taking responsibility for yourself and like what that looks like. And they break them down into really simple concepts using stories to do so. So they also have a really cool history series, like the History of America, and those come in 2 separate like big history books. Those are really rad as well, though I haven't read through all of them, but the little bit I have looked at, it's very cool. I'm obsessed with their Instagram. But really, I just wanted to shout out the Tuttle Twins series because I have read all of those books now, and I've read a good chunk of them to Logan. They talk about entrepreneurship. Like, Logan is so funny. He'll walk around now and like make comments about like, I'm gonna be an entrepreneur, someone who starts their own business. Like, good for you, Logan. You got this. So it's just a really great book series. I haven't seen anything else like this, like out there on the market. Like I said, all of my homeschool mom friends love it. Check them out. I don't have a code, but I have a link that I will put down below in the info box or in the description on podcasts, like the streaming podcast service. And yeah, or in the notes, whatever they call it. Check it out and let's hop back into the interview.
I mean, I know you keep saying, and whatever, I can't take that from you, but you keep saying that you should have stayed and just whatever. But I'm like, I don't know that you should have stayed. I mean, I don't want to skip ahead here. It almost sounds like there's maybe something else you want to say at the end of that before I jump onto RNC stuff. But, I mean, you do look like you do.
Well, sorry.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry.
No.
But concurrently, this same thought process was going on in Palo Alto at Xerox Labs.
Sure.
So
Right.
What a loss.
Right.
It's unbelievable.
Yep. There were so many things that were left by the wayside because of ego in that business.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
It wasn't just your ego. It was multiple people's ego.
Oh, the crazy thing is, since we're on YouTube, this was another incredible instance of, they let me go down and have a discussion with, I didn't ever get to have the discussion with Chad, but some of the Chad Hurley, but some of the people that work for Chad about selling YouTube. And
To Microsoft.
Microsoft was willing to pay all of $50 million.
And that was on the lower end?
I remember saying to them, I'm not going to go down and make that offer.
So it was an embarrassing offer.
Yeah. Like,
Okay.
well, there's no software. There's no tech, guys.
Yeah.
It's data. Like, you still think it's about video. And yeah, on the front end it is. So they said, we'll build our own. Oh my gosh. No, you won't. Because you're not going to allow unlicensed videos. You're not going to play that game because we're a big target. They're going to come and sue us. They know. And we showed YouTube when in its infancy to some senior executives, and one of the videos we showed, cat videos at the time were really big. There was a site, and I knew the guy who ran it, and I can't remember his name. He was a sweet guy, wonderful guy, called Stupid Videos.
Okay. This is probably 06, 07?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we showed YouTube, and one of the things we showed was this video of cats peeing in toilets.
Okay.
And some of the cats knew how to flush, because cats are cool that way, right? Because they got a treat. And so we showed, and this is the almost verbatim response from an executive. He goes, okay, I admit that's amusing. I just don't think that we can build a business based upon, I don't think a lot of people are going to watch cats peeing in toilets.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, even the people who post it and their friends and their friends and their friends, I get the viral effect. I do. I just don't think we can build a business based on that. Okay, what about dogs singing? Again?
Yeah. Or girls putting on their makeup. Whatever. It goes on and on. Yeah.
Right. And they could not understand the snowball effect that they were building up, and the algo that feeds the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And they couldn't understand that Chad Hurley he saw this, no one else did. I am having people solve one of the biggest problems in search, which is what's in that video. Because now we have audio, video recognition. You can scan something and figure it out. AI can figure it out.
Closed captions.
That didn't exist then. So you had this massive, massive storehouse of video assets, and we wanted to make them searchable.
Okay.
To the minute. And we wanted, how do you do that? Well, Chad looks at this and says, how do you do it? You have people do it.
I was just going to say, so it's through their own uploading.
Describe your video.
Yeah. Through tags and...
What's in the commentary?
Yeah.
Tag your video. And
box,
within about, I don't even know that it was 3 years, maybe 3 or 4 years. He had amassed the largest searchable database of video in the world, and in about 7 years, and that might even be long, YouTube became the largest repository for video in the world. It became the second largest search engine in the world. And so then when they sold it, Chad got $5 billion.
I mean,
and I'm glad I got to do this. I'm so glad I got to do this. I was being asked to go speak at this event. And I want to say it was in the Valley, but Chad was coming down the stairs and I was going up, and there were some people from tech reporters there.
Okay.
Like, ooh, this is interesting. A Microsoft guy and a video guy, and Chad Hurley from YouTube. And I saw him come in. I said, Chad, I've never gotten to meet you. Todd Herman with Microsoft. He goes, oh yeah, I know who you are. And I said, it is so cool to shake the hand of a new billionaire. He goes, wait, we didn't say we're selling. I said, no, but when you do, you're going to be a billionaire. It's just, you did this perfectly, man.
Yeah.
You did it perfectly. And yeah, so all those things combined into, I want to be able to build things and be creative and see them come out. And now the great tragedy of my life is I don't care. I don't care about tech.
Oh.
I don't care about any of it.
I mean, you do it a different way now.
No.
I mean, sitting in your studio, the
I
fact
don't
that you're
care
putting
about
out podcasts, YouTube,
No, the tech is an annoyance.
but you're still in it. It's just a different.
When God says you're done speaking my word into the camera, my hope is to live in a cabin, have a CrossFit gym there or nearby, a church there or nearby. I dream of the day where I walk into town and someone says, are you voting? And I go, wait, what? Oh gosh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, oh yeah, no, I'll vote.
That's funny.
And that I've told my daughter, like, I hope they don't get rid of wall phones entirely, because I don't want tech. I don't want.
You'll just have like a fancy looking wall phone. Something
like that.
It's funny because when I first felt like God was telling me to get on YouTube 14 years ago, 15 years ago almost. Yeah, 14 years ago. My conversation with him, literally my response was, what am I going to put on there? People just watch cat videos. Like that was literally cat videos?
Yeah.
I had no idea. So it's funny to hear you say that was kind of, apparently that's what it was known for, if that was my exact response as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I can see that, being burnt out on tech at this point. So, yeah, you're done. You're leaving. Did you go straight from...
I don't think it's burnt out. I think that God has said, I'm going to take that away from you. I don't even understand this stuff anymore. And I used to be able to sit down and suck it up and read and be able to figure out how things worked. And I can't anymore. And I think God did that through pruning, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, you bring something different to the space now. Like I'm glad, obviously, that you're involved in a different way in tech. Your voice is being put out through tech, but you know, He's grown you and pruned you and changed you, and you bring something different to the space, which is going to lead me into questions that I have around your time at the RNC as well.
Yeah.
Because part of why I have these questions, I value what you've learned through this experience.
Thank you.
So yeah, when you left Microsoft, did you go straight into the RNC?
Started a startup called Spin Spotter.
Spin Spotter, that's right. So you were doing Spin Spotter.
And then I got called to a meeting. I went to DC to help a friend named Cyrus Crone, who's an author. It's
a good name.
Great name.
Yeah.
And he had been at the RNC as running digital. And he asked me to go back and present digital to a team of House Republican leaders. What is the reality of digital? How are people using it? How should you be using it? And so I did that meeting, and I got to have a follow-up meeting with a Texas congressman who summoned me and asked me to go and look at his social media presence and his tech presence. So I did. I'm sitting in his office looking at this stuff. And then he did a thing that I now know is rarely done, which is he and I met one-on-one. Usually in DC, they always have a lawyer or a chief of staff in the room.
Okay.
So they can always come back and say, the congressman did not say that.
Gotcha.
So it's to build plausible deniability.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so he and I met one-on-one. And he said, you've been so kind in taking your time to explain to me how people are using this. Can I do anything for you? I said, yeah, how bad is it? It's bad.
How bad is what?
The country. It's bad. He goes, look up there. See, those are some bills that did not make it to the House floor. Pull that one down. And I pulled it down. He goes, that's called the Fair Housing Occupancy Act. Is that what it's called? I said, yeah. All right. Here's what that would have done. That would have allowed community organizing organizations to petition through bankruptcy court to be able to occupy a home. Be a home that went through foreclosure, and the banks still own it. They would have to write the asset off as if it were gone, but still pay the property tax. They could petition for occupancy, and people could move in and live there rent-free. I said, but wait a minute, the bank would have to write the asset off its balance sheet as a loss, but then they'd have to continue to pay the property tax and keep the property up. So people could live in it cost-free. Right. We stopped that by a hair. Todd, what you are seeing is a raiding of the Treasury. And if people really knew what was going on in D.C., they'd be here with pitchforks and torches. And so he told me this. And I kind of knew this was going on. I didn't know the gravity of it. I had a sense of it. And going back to Seattle then, I got a phone call from Kathy McMorris-Rogers, or her people. She was going to be in town. She wanted to take a meeting with me, and we went and had breakfast or brunch at 13 Coins.
Okay.
And she asked me if I would come back to D.C. And she'd wanted me to go advise the Republican Congress. Somehow this got to the committee, Michael Steele, before he lost his mind. And Michael, I love you, but oh my gosh, what's happened? And so I went back and ended up being offered an opportunity to run digital for the committee, and agreed I would do that for one term, which at that point was going to be about 18 months. This is after Barack Obama was elected.
Okay.
And it was clear where Obama intended to take the country, given his background and being a disciple of Saul Alinsky, who was a disciple of Satan. He's the one who dedicated his first book to Satan, to Lucifer.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. The first printing of Rules for Radicals said it was dedicated to Lucifer, a community organizer so talented he got his own planet.
Whoa.
Well, remember that Karl Marx was a Satanist.
Yeah.
So I got to go back and live in D.C. My family wasn't there for the first... My family was there for about 7 months of that 18 months. So a lot of interesting bonding I did with my daughter while we were apart, and tried to be very creative about that. But when I left, and we did the Fire Nancy Pelosi campaign, our team worked on that. It was, at the time, the biggest online fundraiser the committee had ever done. I learned later that it rescued the committee from having to take out loans to have subsistence income. The committee was being starved of dollars because the big donors hated Michael Steele, because Michael Steele fought against Obamacare. They wanted, Mitch McConnell had ordered us, and John Boehner had ordered us to let Obamacare pass. They did not want us to fight it. So they started starving the committee of money. And there were some ego things with Michael as well. But after we'd won the midterms and kicked Pelosi out of the Speaker's office, and that was all very fun, I was coming back from the gym, headed into the church, headed by this church, and I knew I was leaving. They knew I was leaving. And I had this, God called me to this church. And it's immaterial, it was a Catholic church. And I walked in, and I knelt, and I said over and over again, oh God, I'm so sorry. And I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And I was crying. And my family wasn't there, they'd gone back home. And the priest came out of the back room, and I saw him begin to approach me. And then he noticed, okay, Ty, overcoat, just after election, and I'm reading into it, but he thought better of approaching me. And I had this internal dialogue in his mind of, oh yeah, one of those. Figuring out what he did. And because the formula was so easy. The formula in politics is there are bad people doing bad things to our country and you can stop them. And so from...
You mean the front-facing formula, like what we're all told, or what do you mean?
That's the formula. I need to make you hate people more.
Yeah, gotcha.
So for instance, with the Fire Nancy Pelosi campaign.
Yeah.
When we knew we wanted to fundraise off of their attempt to pass Obamacare.
Yeah.
And we knew it was an inflection point. The committee had a whole bunch of plans like the Save Republican Healthcare. I mean, all these bland vanilla phrases. And I hate to say this, but this Alinsky tactic says, do not go after organizations they can't feel. So we came up with this phrase, fire Nancy Pelosi. And there was this push, you can't do that. You can't call for the firing of a Speaker of the House. What if we don't do it? And we did a test on Google for about $500 and came back, and the click-through rate for fire Nancy Pelosi was about 80%.
Oof. Jeez.
The other highest one was like 6%.
Wow.
And then we did the completion of a form. And it was like 80% of the people clicked, 80% filled out the form. I want to fire Nancy Pelosi.
Wow.
So what was I doing is I needed to make you hate Pelosi more. And my wife was there when Nancy Pelosi purposely chose some black congressmen and women, and she purposely walked them through the Tea Party protesters, because there is a train from the House offices to the ceremonial office. It's a members-only train. They could have gotten there safely underground.
Okay.
Instead, she chose John Lewis to walk straight through the protesters.
Okay.
With the bill in their hand. And then when they got in there, they told the press, I cannot believe what I just heard. I just heard my black colleagues called the N-word. People screaming the N-word at my colleagues for trying to rescue the American people's health care. This spoken from a woman who I learned before she voted for pro-abortion bills, she would cross herself feverishly.
Wow.
And that never happened. My wife was there.
What, you mean nobody was
no one called them the N-word.
Yeah, okay.
My wife was there. And later, Andrew Breitbart, God rest him, put out first a $100,000 offer, then like $500,000. Ultimately, I will pay $1 million for a single video of anyone using the N-word. So when I realized I had become part of that system, I had used all those techniques. And when I went home, I drove home in 3 days, and it would have been 3.5, because the truck blew up in Idaho. So I had to leave it there and get a plane ride home, but like 3 days across the country. I couldn't pray for about 6 months because I felt like God was angry at me for being involved in that. And so it really affected my prayer life. And I think Satan's in my ear going, yeah, you divided people and he's angry at you. And everything that happened to our house, we went through this large, long, rainy period where we kept getting this leak that could not be cured. And I'm like, oh, water, of course, the water, the purity, the storm. And so I really grew to regret that time. But man, you have not seen stink and corruption.
I mean, I completely believe that.
There was a woman who ran. She supposedly did digital fundraising for us.
Okay.
And I won't say her name. I know it, but her husband had been a big deal in politics, and so I had made this agreement with Michael Steele that I get full hire and fire, full P&L.
Okay.
Period. No committee people messing with that. I hire, I fire, I have P&L. Okay. he said, one favor I want to ask you is I want you to meet with this woman. Her husband did a lot for the committee. She's really well regarded. I want her to have a chance at the digital business. Absolutely. Absolutely. Of course she'll have a chance. So I looked into what she did, and I was astonished. So she came in for this meeting, and so she's setting up her stuff. And, okay, here's our history with the committee, and we started in direct mail, and now we do digital. Hey, thank you. So, by the way, speaking of digital, can we go ahead and look at our Google AdWords account that you have for us? Oh, yeah, we can't. You can't log on to another Google account unless you're in your office. Oh, I didn't know that. Wait, so you can't log on to the AdWords account you have for us from here. You have to be in your office to do this.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, that's interesting, because I'm right now looking at 3 different Google accounts. I'm looking at my SpinSpotter account for my company in Seattle.
Okay.
I'm looking at the one we have set up for the committee. Then I'm looking at a test one we have set up. And then her tech guy goes, no, that's not what she means. She means that she doesn't have the credentials handy. I'll log on. Oh, okay, because I heard you saying you can't log on. You have to be in your office. Oh, no, he's right. That's what I meant. So he logs on. I said, would you put that on the screen, please? And he puts it up on the screen. I go, okay, will you go to the keywords you're buying for us? And he tabs over. I said, so you're buying the word Republican. What other words? Well, none. How much money are you charging us for this?
Oh, no.
And I don't remember the exact number, but it came out to be around $50,000 or $60,000 a month.
Yeah, so she was not competent, but she had this high-paying job and was taking a ton of money from you guys.
Right. And I said, why are you not buying more words? Well, what other words?
Woo.
Well, how about Republican Wisconsin, Republican Montana, Republican California?
Wow.
And how about Republican San Diego, California, Republican Minneapolis, Minnesota, Republican Dallas, Texas?
Wow.
How about Republican men, Dallas, Texas, Republican women, Dallas, Texas?
Yeah.
How about Republican gun owners? Do you know how much time that would take? Yes, I do. Because there's software that does it all.
So why did this woman have this job?
Because she was hooked up.
Yeah, okay.
So
yeah.
She is utterly befooled. I said, for instance, this took my staff. What did this take? And someone said it took an hour. This is 40,000 keywords.
Whoa.
So you're not going to be working with us anymore. This is over. You will not be getting an opportunity to bid on anything here at all.
And were you
And she goes,
allowed to?
I'm calling Michael Steele. I said, let's go upstairs together. Let's go up right now. In fact, I'll call him. Give me the speakerphone. Oh, I'll talk to him privately. Okay. I'll send him an email right after this. So I did. I got called up to Michael's office. He said, I'm not telling you to hire her. And I said, Chairman, she's swindling us. And so here's the stink. I get a phone call like 2 weeks later, and it's from this woman. Hey, I really feel like we got off to a bad footing. You really showed me that I've been lazy. That was something I needed to see. It's really something I need to understand. And I've been all over my tech team for not challenging me, for being yes men and women.
Wow.
You really did me a great service. So I want a chance to make this up to you. Could I introduce you to some people at lunch? Sure. So I go out to lunch, and I show up, and there's the digital director of the Securities and Exchange Commission, and the FDA, and the National Institute of Health, and I don't know that there was FBI there, and hey, gosh, you know what? They'll all need advisors. And
Interesting.
So we have this lunch, and I'm looking over at bureaucrats, and this guy's eating. He's got his cufflinks. He's got the beautiful suit, you know. And I said at some point during lunch, I go, hey, is that a Pontiac Philippe watch?
It's like the Hunger Games. It's so creepy.
And after lunch, I said, I have to leave. And she goes, oh, I thought it's a working lunch. I said, no, it's like an hour. My work is back at the committee. I have to go. Let me walk you out. So we're walking out. She goes, your time at the committee will come to an end. You said you're going to do one term? Yes. Okay. My company needs a CEO to run all my companies. and I'm offering you this job at $1 million a year.
Oh my gosh.
And I said, and let me guess, all I have to do is bring you back inside.
yeah.
She goes, oh, no, no. No, I'm not saying that at all. No. Okay, so that offer stands, and you'll put it in writing, and it's my job, even if I don't bring you back in. Well, I mean, we need to talk about how we'd write that out. Okay, I'm not interested.
So she's trying to leverage a deal, and then the lunch was essentially to flaunt all of the higher-ups that she knows and all of these other...
Look at, like, I'm going to pay you $1 million a year. How much will they pay you?
Yeah. Meet my friends.
Yes.
I mean, you're kind of... I mean, none of this is surprising, though it's shocking. And this is kind of the main question that I've had for you ever since I met you. I'm like, when am I going to get a chance to ask Todd this? You're kind of indicating already what you think, but I want to know more. My mom has called me jaded the last couple of years in regards to politics in general. I've gotten to this place where I don't really believe any of it's real. Like, I'm still showing up to vote because I'm young. I don't really know anything. I could be totally wrong. But I have gotten to this place where if you have a gun to my head and you ask me, I'd be like, no, it's all a show. It's fake. People are put in positions that they're put in. It's all kind of, I don't know, nepotism is the word we want to use. People are just... like, things are going to go the way they're going to go. You know, like my sister yesterday was asking me, why do you think that, like, about the election? And I'm like, well, we've overthrown governments in other countries. We've put people in power. Why wouldn't that be going on here? What do you think of that thought? How much of our system, our government, how everything is being run, do you think is actually, like, by the people? Is actually, like, elected? Is actually real what we see?
Well, let's start with this, please. When the Jewish people came and said to Samuel, we want a king, what did Samuel tell them?
I don't remember, but I know it was a punishment.
So he tried to dissuade him. Why do you want a king? We have God.
Yeah.
God's the perfect king. Everyone else is a king. They have kings. We want kings. We want a king. Samuel prays to God. And he says, tell him I am the Lord. I'm the Lord their God. I am the God who took them out of Egypt. I am the God who took them out of bondage. I am the God who's given them these things. I am the God who rescued them from the floods. I am the... Tell him that. And he goes back and says, guys, again, God did this all for us. Did we forget the monuments that we built to him? Did we forget the monuments at the river? Did we forget the Dead Sea, the Red Sea? Did you forget the Red Sea? Did we forget all these things? We want a king. So God said, okay, go back and tell him that a king will take your family. He'll take your sons for his armies. He'll take your daughters for his concubines. He'll take your vineyards for his own. He will tax you. He will extort you. We want a king. So I love God's sense of humor. God looks around the country of Israel and goes, that guy's tall and good looking. Go get him. And they pick a guy who's a dunce. And God filled him with wisdom while he was king. But this is a guy who went in search of his father's donkey and walked 6 days away. And people are like, donkeys don't go that far. Well, so, yeah, we live in a fallen world. And people who want to lord their power over others, which the Lord Jesus warned us against, they choose bottlenecks of power. So what are our kings doing? Our kings are taking our sons and daughters and sacrificing them to Baal. They're taking our vineyards. They're taking our money and enriching themselves. There's a reason that guy had a Patek Philippe watch, and it's not because he has a 120 year salary.
Yeah.
So here's to directly answer your question. Number one, we have to vote. Because we've been given a garden we didn't build.
I'm voting. I just want to state that.
Yeah, and I'm saying it for other people.
Yeah.
We've been given a garden we didn't build. And water we didn't find. And a house that we didn't construct. Our home here. The common blessings. And the Lord Jesus has shown us through metaphor after metaphor, parable after parable, be wise stewards of what you've been given. So to be a wise steward of a Republican form of democracy demands that we vote. We should pray protection over our ballots. Christians should gather en masse and in the powers delegated to us by the Lord Jesus, we should pray protection upon our ballots. And that he would frustrate the role of anyone who tries to steal or rig an election. How much do I think is show? We are in a performative politics stage. Joe Biden is not president.
Dude, that's so creepy.
Someone runs him. I mean, you've watched the video of the garbage statement? He's reading.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
He's reading. Someone wrote that out.
I mean, I feel bad every time I see him on camera. I'm just like, this can't be real. Sorry, Joe, if you're not watching, but it's just.
If he is, he doesn't know it.
Yeah.
So that's a performative thing. It's very Soviet. Kamala Harris, who is running to protect democracy, as you know.
Oh.
No one voted for her.
Shining example.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally performative. And then there's this. We have a sadly, probably Parkinson's-ridden old man. We have a woman who has been angling to take his job for a very long time. She's busy out pretending to campaign, reading from teleprompters. He's busy trying to stay alive, and I don't wish death upon him. I hope he has time to go to the Lord and get to know Jesus, because I don't think he does. And yet, the trains run on time.
What do you mean, and yet the trains run on time?
It's a phrase from World War II. Like,
what does it mean?
Well, so the Nazis are doing these bad things, but the trains are running on time. You can get from here to there.
Meaning, so it sounds like generally what you're saying is you believe that the system is meant to be operating yes, we are trying to count them, but people are going to
There's a permanent government, and the permanent government is running things. And the belief of the bureaucracy is presidents. They come and go. They come and go. Congressmen, average 3 terms, they come and go. We're here forever. We're unfireable. We don't have to show up for work for 6 months. Difficult to fire us. We've got our civil service agreement. You can't even, it's really hard to fire us. They're running things. We've gotten to a point in our country where a bureaucratic agency can invent a law. And Congress, I think, has 90 days to say, yeah, we don't think so. And if Congress doesn't do that, it's law. And they'll say, no, it's regulation. No, you're playing a word game. It's a law. So I would say that about 85% of our country is run by people you don't know and whose faces you wouldn't recognize. And this is made possible because Washington, D.C., I joke about this, but Washington, D.C. is a separate country.
Yeah.
That there's not been a, you joked about it earlier, or maybe you weren't joking, there's not been a better political commentary written in 50 years than the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
Because if you've lived in D.C., where people are immune from recessions and depressions, because they have a business model that will sound really familiar to anyone who knows what La Cosa Nostra means. The business model of D.C. is this: if you want more money, take it. That's a great business model. We need more money, so what are we going to do? Well, we'll take it.
Well, and see, to me, it feels like the government says we want more money, print it.
Sure.
And that's part of what contributes to this feeling of it all feeling fake. The money feeling fake, the voting feeling fake. But it sounds like you're saying...
we have to vote.
That the voting is, in theory, counting, but that people can come in and tamper, and we just pray that that's not what
I would
happens.
say this, that the fact that Donald John Trump got to be president would indicate to me that voting still works. That they're not willing to cheat all the way, or in a super obvious way. Not that, look, I need to be careful because I respect your channel and it's their rules. I'm an election denier for 2020.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
And I could get into some. One of the companies I sold after the RNC was a big data company, and so I can say, looking at data, wow, those are very suspicious hockey sticks. That's not a natural data form. So I think about 85% of our
suspicious hockey sticks, meaning like how it just suddenly went up. Is that what you mean by that?
Yeah, all at the same time frame. That, by the way, happened to happen at the maximum at the hour of the morning that is it's known as the maximum human fatigue hour.
Yeah.
4:30 in the morning is when most people are sleepy.
Yeah.
That's when they do.
And then look at that.
Yeah, that's when they do kick in the door raids.
Interesting.
4:30 in the morning. So I think about 85% of our system is run by people we don't know, and I think it's getting worse. You were talking about money. when you have BlackRock and Vanguard say about 3 years before this thing where we shut things down for a while, we should infuse $360 billion into the economy. And then when this thing happened where we shut down the part of the economy for a little while, they did that. And the Fed says, hey, look, debt. Hey, you guys owe us this. And then they take that debt and it goes over to the Treasury. And the Treasury goes, hey, look, money. And then they take that money and they illegally give it back to big companies because we shut down the economy. And they do that twice. Total of $720 billion.
I can't even wrap my head around that.
It's the biggest wealth transfer in history. And so they take that, the big companies, take some of that money and they go, wow, you know what? Homes and storefronts are really cheap right now. We should buy them. So let's do the chain analysis backwards. How did you buy that land and those real assets? With made up debt? Someone put digits on a spreadsheet and now we own tangible assets.
Yeah.
But you paid us to do it. It was illegal, but I mean.
Yeah, thievery.
I mean, come on. It's our betters.
Yeah. And I'm already in the camp of like taxation being complete theft. So that, I mean, that's separate from the fact that they're just printing money. Which
is tax.
What do you mean?
Well, it dilutes what your cash means. So it's effectively, it's a tax on, it would be good to look at it as an opportunity loss or a value loss. Thomas Massey, Representative Massey did this great example of taking someone's iced tea and pouring water into it. Look at this beautiful iced tea. Nice, flavorful iced tea, and then pouring water into it, and then it becomes diluted. Pretty soon you pour enough water and it's just water. Pretty soon you pour enough dollars into the economy and people are like, I got those. Oh, you have dollars? Yeah. There's this great thing that someone did once, this joke on a show called Almost Live in Seattle, which is sort of a local Saturday Night Live when grunge was huge.
Okay.
Then you had bands like Tad getting record label deals and Soundgarden before they were known and bands you've
vibes like you could have been an A&R guy.
Imagine that. Working all that time. Bands you've never heard of getting record deals. And so they did this thing on Almost Live where the record company execs, we need Seattle bands. We need more Seattle sound. Get up and sign bands. And there's record company execs walking the streets trying to sign bums.
Oh my gosh.
Look, just sign here. You're from Seattle. The bum's like, I already got a contract.
So signed.
That's what's happening with our money. It's like, well, wait, it's like a gallon of gas at one point was $7.
Oh my gosh.
So how much does your money really mean, right?
Yeah, no, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is good though, because even though the picture you painted is dark, and saying that the Hunger Games, which that's how I feel about the Hunger Games, it feels like very representative of what's actually going on, just more dramatic and colorful. But even that, I mean, when people were making fun of the Met a few months ago as feeling like the Hunger Games, it's like, it kind of does. And I like fashion and beauty and all of that. I think that it's interesting, but yeah, it's got a very Hunger Games vibe to it. But even though you painted a kind of ish dark picture, you actually are a little more, what would be the word, optimistic than maybe my base kind of settles at. So this is interesting.
This isn't where I live. This isn't my home.
You mean just Earth in general?
Yeah.
So meaning like you feel like you have to be optimistic because this is it and this is what we're fighting for?
No, I'm not fighting for this.
So what do you mean by that? This is where I live.
So those of us who've given our lives to the Lord Jesus, this is a place we're visiting. So we want to leave it well. We want to steward it well. But this isn't our permanent home. Our permanent home is in the new heaven and the new earth. If we're going about building the kingdom, we already know this earth is going to fall. This is all temporary. Everything here is temporary.
I mean, unless you're a post-millennialist and then you think things are getting better.
Go at it, post-millennialist.
I'm like, all right.
Get at it. I know there's people who think we're in the tribulation now.
Yeah.
Man, then I tell you what, the tribulation is light. Because that's not what I read in Revelation.
Yeah. I know there's this funny meme that's floating around and he's like asking like, Lord, why are you giving me your hardest trial?
Right.
And then it's God, he's like, I'm literally just asking you to not do these bad things and speak up if something is wrong. Like, it's not that hard, like the people in America at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a different situation.
Yeah, we're called to be in the world and not of it.
Yeah.
That means we are living here, but we're not of it.
Yeah.
Right? I can go to Canada, I'm not of Canada. I can go to Mexico, I'm not of Mexico. Mm-hmm. So I try to have some optimism based upon that. I don't always succeed because it's a really horrible thing to see our country go through this. But, I was saying this years ago on radio. I remember saying this is one of my catchphrases is, good thing America has a magic protection against revolutions.
What does that mean?
It's sarcasm.
Okay, I was like, wait, this is going over my head.
You know, we don't.
Yeah.
And you made a great point about, look, we do this to other countries. Why not do it here?
Yeah.
Because eventually, like what that congressman said to me, it's a rating of the Treasury. You don't think they know?
What was it that they said?
The congressman who took me to the side and said, it's a rating of the Treasury.
Oh, yeah.
You don't think the people doing the rating know that?
And it doesn't really feel like an America first kind of government. So if we're doing this to other countries, whoever's doing it, whatever's going on, it just doesn't make sense to me that it wouldn't happen here as well. That there's not people that want us to essentially be a globalist, a multinational government versus America, Canada, England, whatever, every country to themselves.
Yeah.
But I mean it in general. You sound more optimistic, and because you're closer than I've ever gotten, or probably ever will be, because I really don't, like, I'm fascinated by politics, fascinated by government, culture, really, and how that all kind of holds hands together. What's that Andrew Breitbart saying? Like culture swims
upstream of politics.
Yeah. So I'm kind of fascinated in general, but I don't have any desire to be in politics at this point in my life. So I value hearing you say that you think that it's not completely all gone, and that we should do.
It will be gone.
Counts. Yeah. Oh, well, there we go.
And so I mean, what is it? Do not store up treasures on earth where moths and thieves can get at them, but in heaven.
Yeah. And I'm weirdly, like, even though I am, like, maybe jaded or kind of pessimistic, I'm also simultaneously not. There was a video that I think it was either Doug Wilson or his college, New St. Andrews, up in Moscow, they put out. And they were basically saying, like, you guys, you're getting so caught up in, like, Babylon's beauty shows or whatever. Like, we keep doing the same thing, regardless of what happens. Things might get a little harder if Kamala wins, but we just keep doing the same thing. We're supposed to still just keep moving forward, doing what we're called to do, and that's kind of it. I appreciated that video, though, is the point. That, like, we just keep doing what we're doing. We keep doing what God's called us to, and, we be obedient in that sense.
Some trust in chariots and horses, others trust in every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. And our version of chariots and horses for many years has been the flag and the government will save us. Donald Trump's not going to save us.
Yeah.
He can't. He can slow the decline. He can right-size a lot of things. I think God uses them in magnificent ways and really strange ways. And I really defy someone at this point to tell me that 2 assassination attempts that were foiled didn't have the hand of God in that.
Oof,
right?
So wild.
Right. And I heard President Trump say, he'd been humbled since effectively the hand of God, felt like the hand of God knocked him to the ground, and Butler. And then I hear the most Trumpian statement. Tucker Carlson asks him about his faith walk, and there's this pastor is Jefferson, and then I've learned it's Jeffries, and he said, Trump, he maybe doesn't know the Bible well enough as other people should. But a lot of evangelicals say, I'm the only one who can take us to the promised land. I'm the only one smart and brave and courageous enough to do it. A lot of evangelicals, and we've got the evangelical support like nobody, and a lot of people say Trump, Trump, Trump. And so I might not know the Bible as well as I should, but God, he just needs brave people. And so I go from that really humbling statement of humility. I was knocked to the ground. And then I listen to this, and a lot of people say, I'm the only one who could take it to the promised land. No, I don't know a lot of people who say that. But I also see God saying, you know what? I chose a dude with a magnificently huge ego because he's going to need it. He's going to need to be a touch narcissistic. He's going to need to be a touch of a Messiah complex. He's going to need some of that. And then I believe, this is why I have this, this has no biblical support, but I believe there'll be this day if President Trump truly knows the Lord in the way that he's capable of knowing the Lord. There are some people who, you know, the widow's mite. This is what he might be capable of. And the good news is we don't have to judge. God knows. Hey, I designed this guy in a certain way. Trust me, this is as much faith as I've designed into him. But I can see this time where when Trump goes to his reward, God willing, that he stands in front of Jesus and goes, oh, I did nothing.
Yeah.
I was nothing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, forgive me.
Yeah.
And then he knows. And then he'll be humbled.
Yeah. I mean, you know, you used a phrase earlier. You said like performative politics.
Yeah.
I think that's what trips me up. I know it trips my husband up too. It trips us up the most in regards to this whole like Hunger Games, is this real kind of thing? Because a lot of times when I'm talking to my parents about politics, I'll have to be like, okay, if we take it at face value. So like the comment about Trump escaping 2 assassination attempts, I have to like get my head around, and I mean, or I am going crazy, but I think I am I don't know if the word would be like microcosm or an example of what I think a lot of people growing up on the internet are feeling, where like a lot of this stuff, I'm just like, yeah, I mean, if it was real, like that's where my brain goes with a lot of the stuff I see. It's hard for me to even get into a lot of these things because I'm like, okay, yeah, I mean, if it was real, but so much of it feels like a show, like we said, kind of like the Hunger Games, like it's performative, like there's a reason to unfold these narratives publicly and get everyone all amped and mad at each other and excited. And
when you have school boards, and school boards have put 30-second speaking limits on the citizens, and they can tend to be in defense of free speech.
yeah,
Or you have city councils. I'll never forget when one of the city councils on the West Coast had voted to issue an arrest warrant for President Trump.
I mean,
And it's one of the West Coast cities where crime is rampant and the infrastructure is crumbling and drug use is everywhere. And it's one of the cities, I can't remember if it was, which city it was. I think it was in California, but one of the places where you have the feces map app.
gosh, it's unbelievable.
And those are real. You didn't know that, Dan? Yeah. San Francisco's famous for a feces map app that will save you from stepping in human feces. True, no, that's a true thing.
Dystopian.
And so, but that's the topic number one tonight. Let's make sure we get to the arrest warrant for Trump.
Gotcha. So you're saying that because they're actually so you're saying the opposite of what I'm saying.
No, I'm saying our performance tonight, our performance is, for your viewing pleasure, we're going to issue an arrest warrant for President Trump. There's your performance.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like, and again, I'm risking YouTube problems. From my opinion, when you have a public official standing offset, stage left, extreme stage left, offset behind curtain, standing there mask free, and walks out to give a statement and is like, oh, hold on.
Yeah.
For the safety of the public, we'll continue to... Walks off the stage.
Yeah.
How'd that go? Was it good? Was it on mark? Performance. It's performative. And what I mean by... And Chris Bray, a great writer at Substack, has been on my show a bunch of times. He describes this so well. That we live in a political era of, I can't hear you, so shut up.
Whoa. I don't fully get that.
Oh, I can't even hear what you're saying. I can't even believe you're saying that. Like, you back President Trump? You don't think he's a racist? Well, what racist is he saying? I can't even hear this. Shut up.
That's what you got. Yeah, okay.
Right? And it's created a performative society where, you voting for Kamala? Of course. Why? Why? Well, because she's the first black VP candidate. What are her accomplishments? What?
Yeah.
I can't even hear you right now. Shut up.
Yeah.
Right? That they've bought the performance so much that the performance is the thing, the play is the thing.
Selling.
Right. That's what I mean by performative politics.
I was just going to say, maybe it's me needing to wrap my head around what performative even means, and what that means in general.
Yeah, when you have, here's performative politics. You are forced to go to a DEI event and at work. Okay, it's all political. And you're sitting in the forced audience because you're in your struggle session. We're all going to have our struggle session now, which is a Maoist phrase. Like, we're going to admit what we've done wrong to the state. Here's how you can test and see if it's performative. Equity. So the presenter will say, equity is different from equality. We can have equality, but equity means not everybody started at the same starting point. So if you're in a running race, some people should be allowed to start ahead of you because they come from a different position in life. Everyone needs to start at the same place. So this is our belief that equality is not enough, we need equity. So we need to move some other people up. So yeah, reparations. We need to move some other people up. Even if they never were slaves, their ancestors were never slaves, and if we're taking money from people who never held slaves and ancestors never did, we need to move certain people up. So we all start at the same place. Try this. This is how you determine it's performative. You raise your hand. Yes. I'm wondering, is it my turn to lead? Pardon? Well, you said we need to move some people up, so why don't you sit down and then I'll lead the meeting? Oh, well, no, I'm the leader. Oh, but I wanted to start where you're at. No, I'm here to perform. We're not doing things. I'm here to perform for you. This is one of my favorite Kamala Harris moments. Hi, I'm Kamala Harris. I'm sitting at the head of the table. I am wearing a blue dress and I use female pronouns. Okay, a lot of us can look at the TV and go, yeah, you're a woman. And if we're colorblind, we can hear the word blue and go, don't know what that looks like. If we're blind, I don't know what a dress looks like. Let alone what blue looks like. Why is she providing the service? Because she's performing. Oh, look how sweet she is.
That's what you have to do to fit into the secular religion now.
Right. She's recognizing the non-sighted. And the people who have different pronouns.
Which, ironically, those people were not recognized when we were all asked to mask up. That was something that my husband, immediately when it all happened, he's like, what is everyone going to do who reads lips? Like, day one, he was like, I don't understand. And those people were thrown to the wayside on that note. But well, this is all very interesting. You gave me a lot of food for thought.
Thank you.
Speaking of food, and I did not mean to do that segue, but I feel like in some ways it's a lighter way to close. In other ways it's not. I think it's actually a very tangible topic in terms of what we actually have control over in our life, or some semblance of control. But I do want to talk a little bit about your health journey before we wrap up. Because like I told you, I really admire people who make such a drastic change in their life. And you said you were 400 pounds at one point.
Yeah, I was just slightly under 400. I was about 385, 390 pounds.
I mean, when I saw videos on your YouTube channel of past you, I was floored. You've had a complete transformation. And you brought up something when I saw you last time that didn't even register to me till you brought it up, that your voice has even changed. It's amazing what your physical state can change about your whole being, your whole spirit. So what brought you down that path? Like, what kicked it all off?
Well, what kicked it all off was seeing myself on TV. And it was during a fundraising, round of fundraising for the Dial. Our PR company, some documentary people wanted to watch me go around the country and speak to venture capitalists and hedge funds. And so they traveled with me for a day. Pardon me.
You're fine.
They traveled with me for a day, and we were watching... we were in the PR company's office watching a reel of some of the coverage. And I was watching the TV, and I recognized the street in San Francisco, knew right where that was, and then this guy got out of the cab, and I went, who is that?
No.
Yeah. And my PR agent said, that's you. I remember my exact words, dear God, I'm a disgusting whale.
Wow.
And that was it. That's no more. And this has to stop. And I told my girlfriend, who's now my wife, this has to stop. And I said, I'm done being fat boyfriend.
Wow.
And so it started with weightlifting, and I'd always, I'd lifted weights since I was junior high.
You mentioned that even though you had extra weight, that you were really strong.
I was really strong, but then again, a 400-pound bench press when you weigh 400 pounds is not that impressive. But
oh, interesting.
it was actually 375, but
we'll round up for dramatic effect.
Round up for dramatic effect.
Okay.
Still a good lift.
Yeah,
felt like a good lift.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was that. And then what was the big discovery for me was, what are you chasing? Our food supply is, if you eat fast food or you eat from the inside aisles, and the grocery store companies, they're hip now to, we figured out the inside aisle thing.
Yeah.
They're hipping up on that. That's why they have all these aisles that block other aisles. Notice you can't just walk, parallel lines anymore. Now they have the aisles set up this way, and
And even if you're eating real food, it's all on a spectrum now with the, Bill Gates appeal, all of the Monsanto, all of like, it's not even just real food. But
and so they're hip to that.
Yeah.
But when I learned that what I was chasing was an insulin high, and I learned that I'd become addicted to fast food, and I look back on this with such incredible embarrassment. I was an addict. Okay.
It's addicting.
Here's an addict's behavior. I'm driving home, and I got to have some Mickey D's, so I stop at the McDonald's on 124th, and I get a double quarter pounder, fries,
and a Diet Coke.
McFish sandwich, large Diet Coke. True, I did that.
Yeah, well, it's
I
really
just like
tasty.
it tastes better.
It
tastes better than the full sugar.
Yeah.
I eat that on the way to the next McDonald's.
No, you didn't. Wow.
So then I go to
phenomenal.
154th, and I pull up, and here's the stunt. Now I'm on my cell phone. Hi, welcome to McDonald's. What can I get for you? Oh, 1 second. Sorry, hold on. What? Sure. Okay, large?
Oh.
All right. I'll bring it to you. All right, I'll be home in a bit. And then it's, I'll take a double quarter pounder, 2 fish fillet sandwiches, French fries, and a Diet Coke.
Wow.
And as if the guys at the 124th McDonald's said, hey, that fat boy is on his way.
Isn't that
the guy in
that's what's going on in your brain.
So then I eat that.
Wow.
And then I realized, I learned later that you're chasing this insulin high. And when I got rid of the insulin highs, and I stripped out sugar, and then I grew to understand that nearly everything is sugar. That really started to make a lot of progress. When I stood in the test kitchen of Taco Time, I think in Burbank, California. Well, I know it was in Burbank. I want to say Taco Time. It might have been Taco Bell. Pretty sure it's Taco Time.
Good old Burbank.
And I saw on the whiteboard chemical compounds.
Oh, no.
These are food chemists. And they're figuring out what's the optimal mix of fats and salts to get you to a dopamine serotonin response. And what are the smells we need to broadcast? So when I stripped that stuff all out, then the weight started to come off. And then I got some help with a company that really helped me lose weight, lose fat. And then I started to practice CrossFit.
Wow.
And CrossFit has been proven to reverse type 2 diabetes. I was probably on my way there to reverse metabolic disorder.
Wow.
I know I had metabolic disorder. And I was blessed to work with a really gifted CrossFit coach for 4.5 years, really helped me get that stuff together, and blessed with a group of young friends who I'm 57, when I work out with them, it would be considered extreme for my age. And I recognize the fact that God gave me a love of pushing my body, and I really like the process of it. That it saddens me when people say, oh, I like the effect of the gym, but I don't like being there. Yeah. And it's funny because people say, well, this is the key to long life. And I always tell them I have no interest in living past the age of 64.
Stop it. My dad said you said that. And I'm always like, what?
Why?
Not always.
Wait a
He
minute.
told me,
Why
like,
should
God.
why should followers of the Lord Jesus not want to go to him? I cannot.
Because God put you here for a reason.
I'm not saying I'm going to kill myself. I am a guy who takes health seriously. But I hope Jesus, before I'm 64, says, come home.
You hope that his
I hope he does it now.
Happens to be
I hope he says
then.
it now. I hope that Jesus comes and says, hey, Nikki, pardon me. Can I sit down?
Yeah.
And
Todd.
Why? I know
tracking.
the
It's
people
fine.
who are left behind are sad. My dad is dead. I've lost a friend, a dear friend in this past year.
Yeah.
I know it makes people sad. But why should we not want that? Why should I prefer
we should
this?
want that. But I think he
but
also
why should I
made
hang
this.
on? Why should I be grabbing this life with my fingernails?
You shouldn't.
Keep me here where things are all messed up.
No,
I want more McDonald's
but it's
burgers.
also so beautiful too. It's beautiful too. But you can want that because I get what you mean, right? That's our hope. That's where we're going.
I'm not a jihadi saying we seek death like you seek life.
Yeah. Okay, so something really interesting I find about you and your health journey, though, is that you're not just someone who like, oh, I just lost weight and got fit or buff. Because Dan and I have talked about these people before that like these personal trainers, sometimes you'll see at gyms that they're just like, yeah, it's just about the calories, bro. You can eat McDonald's all day and you can get ripped. But like I said, what I like about you is that you've really gone down a path of, at least in my opinion, which I know doesn't mean that much, but this is my show, so whatever, that I feel like you really care about health and you understand health. I loved when Matt Walsh was getting in his little controversy maybe a month or two ago about raw milk, calling us all disgusting for wanting raw milk. And I saw that you were talking about it. I was like, ooh, I want to hear what he has to say. And I was applauding at the screen because rightfully so, you were like, that's the way God made milk. And so you've really gone down this path of true health, not just getting buff and I can eat whatever I want.
Yeah.
And I think that health and food and the food establishment in America is deeply tied. I mean, it's kind of like maybe my top political interest at this point, because it is so political at this point, what they're doing to the land, what they're doing to farmers, the money that they're giving to farmers. Like, to my knowledge, the government only gives money to farmers that do monocrops, like these big monocrop farms. And it's just really cool that you're hip to all of that. Was that something where, like, when you first, saw yourself in that video and you were disgusted and you were lifting more, did you just like deep dive? Was it a quick kind of like baptism into like, oh my gosh, this is what's, or was it over the course of the last few decades?
It was over the course of a long time that it's the red pilling process. Oh, wait, there's an insulin high? Yeah, what causes that? Sugar.
Yeah.
What is sugar? Well, it manifests in a lot of different forms. And then understanding that processed food companies hire food chemists, like Facebook hires neurologists.
Yeah, oh gosh.
How can we encourage the infinite scroll? How can we encourage you to have an addict's reaction driving by a Burger King and you go, ooh, BK special?
Yeah. You never forget the way all those things taste too. I haven't eaten them in years and I remember so many of them.
And they
burns into your memory.
Instantly the pleasure centers. So it was over time in that. But then this joined with my walk with Jesus getting more important to me, and me surrendering intermittently in war and surrendering, intermittently backstepping and moving forward. And I'm thinking of this confluence of things that when you have an industry, the food industry, and they use a phrase called distancing. Do you know this phrase? So this came from when I was working in advertising and tech at Microsoft. I was studying the food and grocery business so that I could speak knowledgeably with them.
Okay.
And I came across this phrase, distancing. So the further you distance a food item from how it looks in nature, the more much money you make.
Oh.
So you take an apple, okay? Like my daughter is a vegan, very skilled vegan cook. She made carameled apples last night. And people will say to me, well, you never get to eat any junk food. Yeah, no, I do. That night that I ate those things, I had burned 4,000 calories in advance, and I only had 1,000 calories. So I planned ahead, coped ahead. But my daughter distanced the apple.
Yeah.
Okay, so now it's coated in this amazing caramel she made, and cashews, and coconut chips, and graham crackers. And she's like, no, Dad, you need to spin the caramel so it comes off. I go, no, I don't, because then it's not thick caramel.
Yeah, exactly.
And you take an apple, and then it's apple slices.
Yeah.
Cool, well, you make more money, because now someone doesn't need to slice it. Now it's fruit leather.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Right, and the kids go, oh, no, I want the fruit leather. Well, why? Because the pleasure center.
Yeah.
You don't even have to digest it. You are instantly getting the hit. Meats, like what's in steak? Steak. Well, why don't we add some spice and why don't we chop it up?
Yeah.
So now you take distancing to this insanely evil level that you have Bill Gates saying, we need to tax developed countries into doing away with meat. This is his right hand. We need to do away with meat. On his left hand, this is a guy who's involved in the scam to steal farmland, to bring in carbon dioxide pipelines. Number one, because
He's like the number 2 farmland owner in America
the world,
or something like that.
right? So we're going to build these skyscraper greenhouses. We're going to make fake meat.
Yeah.
And this hand, I'm regulating you out of meat, and it's the ultimate distancing. Your source of protein now, A, isn't macrobiotically even a protein. It's a fat and a carb with some protein in it.
Yeah.
It's been through 10,000 steps of processing, but it's the only thing you get. Look how much more money they make, particularly when they've locked us out of the meat supply. There's a reason Monsanto wants their fish to be non-regenerating.
Oh my gosh.
They don't-
Yeah, and that they're working on fruit that doesn't have seeds.
Right.
It's unbelievable. And then your immune system can take a hit, but don't worry, you can get vaxxed.
And boosted.
Yeah, and boosted.
Right.
Multiple times. Yeah, that's so messed up. I'm like really passionate about that.
I can tell. And
this
knowledgeable.
I mean, at least a little bit. But this whole food freedom thing is like, I think it's really going to be important in upcoming years. I'm excited to see the movement growing. I'm excited that you're woke to that. Because once again, I think, you know, I have heard stories from family members of being with other friends who are a little older, and they'll make comments about like, oh, hippie stuff with Monsanto or whatever, and I'm like, this is not hippie stuff. This is like, I don't want to be dramatic, but like life or death. Like, this is tied to the fertility issue. This is tied to cancer. This is tied. I mean, I know I'm not allowed to make these bold statements, but that's what I honestly feel, that it's all holding hands, that the pharmaceuticals are holding hands with the food industry, and it's cool that you are woke to that in a good way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
So, I mean, I guess on that note, I'm kind of ready to pee my pants. I could have paused this at any point, but this was such a fascinating conversation, and you've given me a lot to think about. And guys, I'm gonna have all of Todd's links down below. I guess before we go, is there anything you would like to send anyone off with? Is there anything you wish, you wanted to say, you didn't get to say? Any closing thoughts?
I would just offer you this. If you don't yet believe in God, just answer me just this one question. Just one simple question.
One.
Okay. Do you know where you're going to go when you die? Do you want to know?
Yeah, I mean, that's like the ultimate closing line. I'm glad that you said that.
I think you should know.
Well, thank you for that, Todd.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. I always appreciate my conversations with you, and it's been nice just getting to know you more. So
Thank you, Nikki.
check out Todd's stuff down below. I'm also going to link the interview I did with him if you want to see, because a couple of you guys, I was really surprised, were like, what? You were canceled? I was like, a couple people don't know. I was all excited. So, or if you do know, whatever, if you want to see that interview or hear that interview, I will link it down below. And I think I said that like 6 times. On that note, I will, God willing, see you guys back here soon with another new video. And that's it. All right. Bye, guys.